Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
It's Thursday, and it's just you and I.
It is Athlete of the Week, and like we should, we have deemed ourselves the athletes of the week. Yeah, and I'm also Employee of the Month. And you,
damn, I missed it this time.
All right, so why are we here? We have about, I don't know where we're at, maybe close to a dozen athletes scattered throughout the next several months scheduled to come on the podcast, but it's still not enough. And so we're taking a break from athletes to encourage athletes who are listening to come on the podcast, because we got to hear your story. And I don't think, a lot of people are just willing. I think it's sometimes the more extroverted types have no issues. They're like, hell yeah, let's do a podcast. Let's do this thing. But then there are some of the introverted types who we coax to get on here who are not, they're a little bit scared. I think they're a little bit frightened of coming on a podcast, hitting the record button, so on and so forth. So I just want to talk about that. Joe, when we throw out our fishing net for athlete interviews, what are some of the common objections you feel athletes give us if they state they don't want to be on the podcast? Like, what's a reason they would say they don't want to come on the podcast?
I feel that they're not very interesting, or they might not feel like they've been around for long enough.
Yeah. So those are the two biggest one. And that first one is the most prevalent. They don't think that their story is very interesting. And that's the one I wanted to hit on because I don't feel like anybody actually knows their story. You know your history, you know what you've done, but a lot of people haven't sat down to kind of write your story. Like, how did you end up here? Like, why the hell are you listening to this podcast? Like, what series of events had to happen to make you a part of the Garage Gym Athlete community? Whether you're struggling with consistency, you are consistent, you have lost weight, you're working on it, whatever the case is, you have an interesting story to share no matter who you are. And I think people get in their heads a little bit about this. I'm not interesting. I'm not doing something. I'm not doing Murph every week like people in the community. I haven't not missed a day in 5 years. That we have some pretty amazing athletes on the podcast, but that doesn't, take away from anyone else's story. There are people listening to this podcast right now at every stage of the fitness journey. Some are well advanced, well-trained athletes, very consistent, diet locked in. You think that's the majority of the people who listen to this podcast? Most likely not. It's going to be people who are just putting in the work, trying to get better each and every single day. And so if you fit in that category, we want you to come on the podcast. Joe, why should they come on the podcast?
I mean, a lot of times it's people that or at least listening that they have been thinking about starting a garage gym or working up to building one or putting one together. So they just like hearing from people that have started one. And if you have started one, whether you're new or been doing it for a while, you're probably not like a brand new to working out kind of person. It's not like a first step to where, hey, I've never worked out before, I'm going to build a gym in my garage. It's that, you've tried this, and just hearing the progression of trying those things and then how you've gone about putting a gym together at home or working out, or even like how you've gone about doing our workouts in a regular gym. People want to know because they've gone through it, are going through it, are about to go through it. And it doesn't matter how mundane it sounds to you, but that progression is interesting to other people because it aligns with what all kinds of other people can and have done. And there can even be times where we talk to you twice and things have been forgotten. We just talked to Gabe, and that was his second time on, and the first time we completely skipped his entire like intro to working out and his workout history, and we had a whole full second episode to talk about and even more. So there's more than you think and relatable to more people than you think.
Yeah. And good point on the Globo gym versus garage gym versus basement gym versus outdoor gym versus CrossFit gym. Wherever you're at, we don't really care. Like, it's garage gym athlete to me is more of a mentality. It's not, you don't have to be in your garage gym, because the main thing that we do, we don't actually do a lot with garage gyms, which is funny enough. Like, we are all about the programming. The programming can be done anywhere. The programming is put together in such a way that you can follow it in a minimalistic style garage gym. But we're way more about programming than we are your exercise location or your equipment, or I don't care what barbell you use, or if you even have one. I don't care. You however you're getting it done. We don't discriminate on your workout location.
Yeah, fun fact, to this day I still have yet to ever have a garage gym
Yeah,
because in
you
San
had
Diego it was my back patio. And
yeah,
then
you had an
now I'm
outdoor
back
gym
to
for a while, and
yeah,
now you're
and
in
now
a.
I'm back to a military gym.
Will that change when
So
you get back to Cali?
it should. It 100% should. Yes. So, incoming a year from now or so, hopefully, but that'll mean it took me 6 years to actually get one, but still, I still get all the workouts done.
And you're on the team, you
Yeah.
know? No discrimination. Awesome. So, I don't know if there's anything else. I just want to encourage every athlete out there who's on the fence to consider it. And the ways to do that, you can email us if you want. We don't have a formalized, we have a formalized process for getting people on there, but we don't just leave it public on the website, because we've had people who just want to get on a podcast who've never done our training, never done. They just want to be interviewed on a more popular podcast. So we've had that kind of stuff kind of happen previously. So we're really interested in interviewing our athletes, primarily athletes that are following our programming and in the community, and all those things. And so you can email us if you go to garagegymathlete.com, hit the contact form, say you want to be on the podcast. That's one way to do it. We can shoot you a link to schedule and give you all the prep. And that's a big thing I want people to know as well, is we do prep you. Like, I have a short video after you schedule a time. There's a short video. I go over how to have good sound quality. I give you all the questions that I'm going to go over. We don't really deviate from those questions too much, unless there's, you told a really interesting story and we need to dive down that rabbit hole a little bit more. But we prep you ahead of time. So I mean, if you've listened to the athlete interviews, they're structured, and they're structured for a reason, because we're not trying to put you, uh, you know, just out there doing improv. Like, that's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to get your story and share it with a lot of other athletes in the community. So you can go to the contact page. If you're in the Facebook group, Joe just threw it in there recently, and we'll throw it in there again. And then I do occasionally email it out in our 5 Line Friday email. So if you want to subscribe to that, you can go to into3fitness.com, click on the 5 Line Friday link in the menu, and just be notified of when we're reaching out for more guests. Like I said, we have a good amount scheduled right now from Joe's most recent request, but we want to get a lot more athletes interviewed. What would you say the minimum threshold of, like, how long they've been in Garage Gym Athlete? I feel like some people think they need to be around for like a year before they're eligible for podcast interview, but I don't know if I feel that way.
2 to 3 months. We've had people in the past. It's sometimes it's nice to get a fresh perspective because then 6, 8 a year, 6, 8 months a year or so afterwards, we can get a second one and then just see the difference of from being brand new to then. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to hear from somebody who is like brand new, like 1 to 2 months in. Just what are your thoughts of Garage Gym Athlete coming in as a newbie? And I think that'd be cool. I've talked to, email communication wise, had a lot of people talking about following other programming sites. I get this feedback all the time. They follow other programming sites, and then they come in with us, and they love the programming so much more than how anyone else is doing it. And so if you're not one of our athletes, go sign up and then schedule to be on the podcast. I would love to do that as well. Or if you've just been a garage gym athlete, like some of our athletes have been quote unquote garage gym athletes training in their garage for a decade, 2 decades, and just recently started following our programming. You have a story to tell, and we want to hear it. And so does the rest of the community. So I've listed all the ways and the reasons. So join up. I think the most recent podcast we did with Robert Guillen. He, I don't know if we recorded this section or if he was said it to us after we were done recording, but he likes to post things in the Facebook group, just like little tidbits here and there, motivational segments or paragraphs, whatever, things that he's sharing in the Facebook group. And his reasoning behind it was he's like, if I can post this and it just helps one person that day, like just someone catches it in their Facebook feed and that encourages them to train a little bit harder or to not skip that training session or to, skip the donut, whatever it is, whatever good decision you made based off of, one Facebook post, if one person benefit from that, it's a huge ripple effect. And that's really what your interview does here, because the team and we could sit around and just talk about fitness and science and all this stuff all we want. But that people start to disconnect us from being like them just because we're in a fitness company and it's our lives and all these other things. So hearing from other people when you get on the podcast, a lot of people listen to it and you might help. It will be at least one. You'll help one, if not hundreds, if not thousands of people make a better decision based off of your story, based off of something you said, and you most likely won't even know it. But that ripple effect is always there. It's a big reason I like to do this. The reason I like to produce content is I know how much it can affect and better the lives of others. So come on the podcast. We'd love to have you guys, but that's it for this one. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.